On the March edition of Historic Racing News, we recap Race Retro 2026. And for a truly huge prize, how about a trip to the Monaco Historic Grand Prix? Welcome to Historic Racing News, where motorsport history lives on. Thanks for tuning in to part 2 of our show. Now, here is your host, Paul Tarsi.
Welcome back to part 2 of the Historic Racing News podcast. In part 1, we announced our biggest ever prize, which is that incredible hospitality package at Monaco Historique. The prize happens on race day, 27th of April, and it's perhaps the ultimate viewing and hospitality package. It's actually in what is the apartment block, which is right on the edge of Saint-Devote. So if you look to the right, you can see them coming down the start-finish straight, and then through Saint-Devote, the first corner on the Monaco circuit, and then you can watch them go up Beau Rivage towards Casino Square. In fact, from that vantage point, and Matt Twynham has done the sums, you can actually see cars on the circuit for very nearly 70% of the circuit. So it's an incredible prize. You'll need to get yourself to Monaco, but Matt's told you all about that and what it is. The question which you'll need to answer is who won the first ever Monaco Grand Prix and what make of car was he driving? You'll need to email your answer to Matt Twynham, Matthew, at twynhamstours.co.uk. That's Matthew at Twynham's Tours. That's TWYNHAMSTOURS, all one word, .co.uk. You get your entries in 7 days' time, so you need to get them in by the 11th of March at 5 p.m. UK time. Terms and conditions are available from Matthew, and you can have those, but good luck. Get those entries in as quickly as you possibly can. Now, Paul, you know the chaps from Equipe Classic Racing very well, and you caught up with Rob Cull to hear what they're doing for 2026.
Yeah, it was great to actually interview him in front of an audience on Sunday afternoon. Lots in store, and Rob was on fine form.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. We now come to the 6th and final session across this stage where we as Historic Racing News get to take to the stage, and we are delighted to have with us. I'm going to give you the big intro, Rob, if that's okay. If you came in the main entrance into Tour Hall 2, you would have seen the Equipe Classic Racing stand, easily the biggest stand here today. We're delighted to be joined by one of the two driving forces behind Equipe Classic Racing, Rob Cull. John Pearson, who is the other driving force, is obviously a man who can make a correct decision when he has to, because it's his wife's birthday, so he's not here today. So definitely not worth risking that one, was it?
Absolutely not. Misses it every year.
A little bit closer.
Misses it every year.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cunning, isn't it? Yeah, he can pick his moment. So, Rob, let's start off just purely by talking 2026. Big year for Equipe Classic Racing. You're running your first championship.
Yeah, it's been 6 years in the making, and we decided that the historic racing market didn't have a high-profile championship. So when we looked at this, we started developing a grid in 2019, and then started writing the regulations probably 2 years ago. And we've been very grateful to be given a full Grade A national championship for the first series, which is this year. So.
Fantastic. So it is going to be pre-1966 cars on historic tyres, so handling exactly as they would in period, car moving round under you. 1 hour races, opens up at Silverstone on April the 4th. And am I right in, if I remember correctly from the regs, you're slightly relaxing your rules on having professional drivers in?
Well, as it's a full national championship, we can't stop them from coming in. So it's going to be really good for the really good spirited amateurs to have a go at the guys that earn a living actually racing. And I think they may be surprised at the quality that they're going to find in some of the classes.
We got some. I have to admit a vested interest here, having commentated for a Quick Classic Racing for a couple of years now. But there are some amazing drivers in there. What sort of cars could we expect to see on the grid, and what sort of numbers are we up to already?
So we've got 5 classes, which, if you look at our stand, the cars are there. So you've got in Class 1, you know, it'd be a Mini or a Lotus Elite. Class 2 will be the Battalion Lands or 26Rs or the Marcuses. Class 3 will be MGBs, TVRs, TR4s. Class 4 is Austin Healey 3000s. And then it's the big bangers in Class 5, which will be the Cobras, E-Types, Ginetta G4Rs, things like that. So
effectively, there is a large number of very, very crowd-pleasing cars in there. I know everyone likes the big V8s, but the little Land 26Rs are usually nibbling at their heels through the corners.
Absolutely. I think circuit dependent, you're going to have some real stonking battles at the front, but we're doing the point system as we would have done in British touring cars back in early 80s, which means it's a class win, it's not an overall win, so points are for each classes. So you could have a Class 2 car winning the overall championship, and that means that it's going to be racing from front to back, which is going to be really cool.
So everyone is effectively racing for something, which is how you want it, is it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, part of what we do as a series is that we want people to be included in our racing. So bigger grids mean people race from front to back. And one of the best things I saw last year was 2 guys that had finished 21st and 22nd giving each other a cuddle because they just had the best race of their life, you know. So if we can replicate that in the championship, I think that's a good formula to continue with. Very,
very much so. And am I right in thinking that after all your years in Equip, all the races you've done with Equip, and we'll come to that later, you can't compete in this?
I'm actually competing in it. So I'm actually in Class 3 in the Grand Tourer.
I thought you were championship coordinator.
Well, I've managed to find someone else to do that role, so I can come in it now.
Okay, I thought you were banned from racing in something you're in charge of. So nice sidestep, if I can say so.
Absolutely. I was looking at it, I'm thinking that just looks the best fun, so I've got to find a way to get in it somehow.
So what car are you going to be out in?
We're going to do it in the TVR.
So your TVR Grand Tourer?
Absolutely, yeah.
Fantastic. I have to say I've got a strong memory of that car. I've seen you win a lot of races in that car. I also remember a spell, though, when that car was rather fond of shedding wheels. I can remember Cadwell Park, which is a strange place to commentate because in the commentary box you actually look up at part of the circuit with the elevator. And I saw the wheel before the car.
So did I. We had a season where we had a really bad batch of rear drive shafts, and unfortunately when the TVR breaks a drive shaft, the wheel goes with it and normally the bodywork as well. So we had 3 failures like that year.
So literally you saw the wheel go past and it was like, oh, bother.
Absolutely. And then I hit the barrier.
Fantastic. Let's just rewind to the start. So how did you and John actually start? How did Equip Classic Racing come into play?
So I'd been doing some racing in the 90s and I stopped for a few years and then come back to what was then the early parts of historic racing and was racing an MGB. And a friend of mine had a series which was called the MG Team. And myself and John met at a racetrack in 2005 and become strong friends from there. We were racing that series up until 2010 and then the owners decided they wanted to sell it and it all fell apart. And we were on our way to Spa probably 2012, 13. I thought we can do better than this. And we started our first race series in 2015, which was GTS. And then someone last year said, Rob, when did you realise that your hobby had got out of control? Because we've now got 12 series, you know. So it's not a quest for world domination. It's just seeing how the market is coming to us as opposed to us trying to find the market. So
I'm sorry, I thought this was just to give yourselves more excuses to race over a race day.
Well, it's also good that you can legitimately have more cars.
You do jump between quite a few.
Sometimes I can, yeah.
Fantastic. And obviously the developments and everything. Now it's effectively your race meetings that you're racing at.
Yeah, so 3 years ago we become fully fledged race promoters where we stopped buying track time from other clubs and we got to the groundswell where we're possibly the largest historic racing club now in Europe. 628 registered drivers last year, over 700 different cars race with us. And we're the only independent club that takes 2 days on the Silverstone GP circuit. So we've got to a point where we're blessed by a huge amount of drivers that follow us, which enables us to give them what they want.
And you give them quite a lot of variety. I know I said the Silverstone is the season start first weekend of April, but then we're returning to Silverstone on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, where I think we've got a 6-hour race. Then we're at Donington. We're visiting all the big circuits. And that's a big commitment. I think everyone, thinks, you don't do anything till the season starts. But you guys would have been flat out over the winter putting this season together.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's actually during the season that we do all the work. Actually, I'm working on 2027 calendar already with the circuit, so that's how far advanced you're working now. But it's one of those things that if you're not on it early, you then have to sort of take what you're given, where we like to be up front, give people plenty of notice what they're doing, and I think that's why we have such big grids, is because people can plan early.
Plan early, yeah, and you are there, and they know that you're going to be racing because you are now a known brand. I mentioned early on, though, that this was your first championship. It gets a little more complex, doesn't it, running a championship than a series? Suddenly you've got points, you've got scrutineering, you've got different sets of rules to obey.
Yeah, it took me 3 months to write the 60 pages of regulations for the championship, so... and they're still not finalised yet, because dealing with Motorsport UK on a new championship is quite a slow process. However, we're looking forward to the different dynamic that comes to our meetings, and I think having a defined National A championship within your club creates a fantastic pathway and an ambition for people that just come in at a young age, and they can go right the way through, and hopefully if we can get it off the ground, it will become a British championship, and to have the only historic British championship will be fantastic.
And you say, yes, we got that championship, but none of the old series are going away, are they? So, we're still going to have the Equipe GTS pre-66, less than 2.7 litres, Lieb pre-66, essentially similar cars too in the championship. So people can come in, get up the speed, get a feel for it, and then step up to that championship.
Absolutely. The idea of having a series is that you're not committing to a whole season. The idea of a championship is you want to be a champion, so you'll do every race. And I think there's two different things. You've got the guys that want to just come and do one or two races, and the super competitive people, which I'm not that one of those, that want to try and win something.
You say super competitive, and I was trying to think this is actually as we were talking a second down. So what cars do you actually have to go racing in, if you don't mind me asking?
This year we only have 4. So
only 4?
Yeah. So we've got the 26R Elan, we've got the TVR Grand Tourer Mark III, and we've got the Group 2 Zack Speed Escort. So
that was 3.
Oh, an MGZR.
Oh, the MGZR.
But someone's trying to kick me out of that at the minute, so...
So we shall see where that goes. You said the 26R, and I can remember that with Equipe we were celebrating the anniversary of the 26R a couple of years ago at Silverstone. 50 odd, I think it was, cars on the grid. An absolutely amazing 1-hour race. But you had a family connection there, going back to that in Lotus. I think your father was deeply involved in that car.
I was lucky to be around all of my life in motorsport. My dad was, back in the day, Jim Clark and Jack Sears chief mechanic when they were racing Cortinas. But he did a lot of the development work on the early 26Rs with Jochen Neerpasch. And they raced one throughout Europe. And unfortunately, I lost my dad a couple of months before the Lotus race we did. So I built a car that was a tribute to the car that they ran in the 65 championship. And that's why it's an exact replica of the car that they raced and campaigned then. So I was blessed to be across all of that growing up, and obviously as we went racing, I just learnt more about what he did.
Very much so. As I remember sending you a snapshot, I was reading a book and his name cropped up about in the history of Lotus over the winter. But it was also, you talk about the Lotus, the Elan. The Elan was, of course, the first Lotus built with no hint of racing involved. It was supposed to be the road car to make Lotus money. Other people were racing them and making money by the conversion. So it was really trying to turn the road car into a race car. So deeply involved in that 26R.
Yeah, it was interesting because what I didn't realise until I drove one was it was actually built as a racing car. And I just thought it was a converted road car like everything else. And I look at some of the pictures in period and what they did. And I'm quite proud to say that, some of the development work that's still on the cars today was from my dad's innovation in a paddock. So like the scoops on the side were... on the Nürburgring where they had to get the diff cooling, so they'd cut the trailer apart to make some scoops on the side. And if you look at the original cars, they were square, not round. So
literally, it's improvising with what you've got with you to make the change to the car.
Then explaining when he got back to the factory to Colin Chapman that he's cut the trailer apart to keep the car going. So,
and briefly, while we're on the subject, I believe he was also involved in the Lotus 38 IndyCar.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, so he did. He didn't go out to Indy, but he did a lot of the work in the factory at Cheshunt with it. So, and I've got pictures of them in the factory. Also with the Type 30 as well. He did a lot of work with that. So, yeah. So I've got some great nostalgic pictures around. So
fantastic. And as you say, that 26-hour race. Shame. Unfortunately, he didn't get to make it. But you worked so hard, I remember, to get that car. I think it only ran on the day, if I remember.
It did. It dropped on its wheels at 11:30 the night before, and the first time it turned a wheel was actually in qualifying. So.
You're listening to Historic Racing News and Paul Judd's recent interview at Race Retro with Rob Call from Equip Classic Racing.
Certainly from my perception, one of the things that's very important to you guys is that paddock atmosphere, that feel of what's going on with the paddock. It's always a very friendly, very helpful paddock you have.
Well, I think the difference with us as opposed to a lot of other clubs is that we're just there to go racing. Everybody that's associated with us, everybody that works with us, just wants to go racing. And I think we're probably the only club now that every member of staff is a current motorsport licence holder and will race this year.
Yeah, which is quite saying something to that understanding and that level of involvement. And a big season ahead of us, and one of the things I'm quite looking forward to is I think it's your Sports Car Sunday at Donington in the first weekend of July, if I remember correctly, when literally in the afternoon, I made a quick note of it, there's going to be a race which is going to be ACs versus Jaguars, so Cobras against E-Types, and then we're going to go into a race purely for Lotus Elands, a race for just the MGBs, a race for Minis, and what I'm looking forward to is a race for Austin Healey's, because last year at Silverstone we had an hour-long race for Austin Healey's, and it is the best race I've commentated on all year, certainly. And in fact, I was here on Friday and I bumped into one of the drivers who came second, and he was still buzzing, telling me about everything that had happened in that race.
Well, part of what we do is we do very well is the historical date races. So, we do anniversary races, and we've done those for a long time. The first one we did was the MG40 at Montclair. Then we did the MG50. Then we did the MG60, and we hold the biggest race of MGs ever anywhere. So we've done that. So we've looked at that, and we felt that British sports cars are not really celebrated as a mark. So we decided that we're going to have the championship on Saturday with our normal content. Then it's going to be the British Sports Car Sunday with all the mark races on the Sunday. And what we are going to do is that's going to be in association with the Caldwell Children Charity. So we'll be doing a huge, big push because there's never been a whole event that has sponsored a charity and supported a charity. There's been odd charity events, and what Equip Classic Racing is about community and to try and devote a whole weekend to a very worthy children's charity we felt was a thing we needed to do.
And a great weekend it should be as well. And it's also, if I'm correct, it's the day of just down the road, the British Grand Prix. So if you come to Donington, you're going to see far more overtaking, far better racing, and it's certainly going to be cheaper to get in.
Absolutely, and what you'll also find is that you'll be able to get very upfront and personal where you can't at the British Grand Prix. The only thing you get up front and personal to is the person sitting next to you, I think. But if you want to see some stunning racing and some great paddock cars as well, then that's going to be probably one of the highlights of the year.
And I have to say, I'm always very fond of saying actually on commentary that if you go for a tour of the paddock, ask people. People love talking about their race cars and showing them to you. And you can get really up close, and it's fantastic. Sometimes some of the cars have got amazing stories behind them.
Yeah, if you look at some of the cars there, we've got some fantastically historical cars. But I think going back to your thing about the camaraderie, we're about inclusivity. We're about a pathway. We're about making everybody welcome. And if you look at our stand, for instance, our stand is open to everybody. You can look at the cars. You can come and have a cup of tea. Yeah, we just want to chill. We're just passionate about racing, and I think that comes through. And I think being that inclusive is the key to what we do.
It is, and also, if I can say without trying to be too flat, quite innovative as well. End of the season is usually Silverstone and your Super Sprints event. I think you're probably, because I was told it was your idea, so I think you're probably the best man to explain what the Super Sprint actually is.
That's really simple. That's the internal workings of my mind. That's how my mind works. The innovation is great because we actually got awarded the Innovation Award this year by the RAC. So we were really pleased that we'd been seen to be doing something different. But part of the inclusivity is I'm lucky where I go racing. I'm normally at the front because that's the way I am. But there's people that come racing that are never more than higher than 20th or 25th or whatever it is. So I was on holiday one year and I was thinking, how can we put some energy into the end of the season? And we decided, I was looking at the motocross, go-karting, all that type of format of the round-robin format, but without a knockout. And so what we do is you qualify and you get set into different grades of speed. So you end up with 3 finals of a bunch of people that are normally within 1 or 2 seconds apart. And what's fantastic for me, I see novices and guys that have never been higher than 20th on pole and winning races and genuinely winning their own race. And that is why we do it. It's about all of us. It's not just about the top 3 or 4.
I have to say I've thoroughly enjoyed commentating on it purely because it took me right back to when I started out in the 1980s when all club motorsport was a 10-lapper. Everything was a 10-lap race, and I think if I'm correctly, I'm trying to do the maths in my head, we have 12 10-lap races across the day. Sometimes people are in one race and then they're out almost again in the next, so you get a quick turnaround. You do get that mix-up of grids, cars possibly racing each other that they don't normally, and it is just such an exciting day from such a simple idea.
And where the key to that is you never know until that round's finished. So everyone's waiting for the last race to finish before you know where you are next. And what that does is creates that whole energy around the day, which is generally, a very dull sort of Silverstone National Circuit in October.
Obviously, as we're talking, you race in different cars. Your enthusiasm and your fun has grown. Equipe Classic Racing has grown. You have staff. How have you kept it fun?
We just don't take ourselves too serious. We are super professional behind the scenes, but we've all got the same goal, which is we just want to be racing without all of the red tape that you normally get. And because the inclusivity is infectious, we welcome people as opposed to stop people from coming in. We're not trying to be above our station. We just want to be the very best at what we do. But behind the scenes, you won't find a more professional outfit, and we've probably got the state-of-the-art booking systems. We are at the front edge of everything, but you don't have to be draconian and serious all the time. We don't take ourselves too seriously, and I think that's the key.
And I think that's quite important. I think I've heard yourself and John refer to it more than once as not-for-profit motor racing.
It's the other way around. We call it not for loss.
Yeah, let's just try and break even, basically, but have a lot of fun.
We're very, very lucky.
A lot of fun on the way, sort of thing. So, obviously, you've driven a lot of cars. You see a lot of cars. Are there any cars that come out with Equipe that you look at and you think, I'd love a go?
Nearly all of them, to be honest with you. I was lucky to drive a Praga last year and really enjoyed that. I'm hopefully going to be in a B8 this year, which I've always been a car that I'm wanting to race. But yeah, there's lots of bits. I mean, if you're passionate about racing cars, you want to drive everything, so. It is.
It's probably actually a good point, though. I did actually start listing out the championships, and I'm convinced I didn't get them all. We've got Equipe Libre, pre-66, no engine limits. Equipe GTS, pre-66, less than 2.7 litres. Equipe MG Cup, you gave that a home when it was a bit homeless.
That's one of our really big successes. So I've been lucky enough to be around the MG Car Club for 25 years, and it's a shame what happened to them in their racing side of things. But what we did, we offered 2 or 3 of the MG series a home when MG Car Club stopped racing. And when MG Cup come to us, we were 16 on the grid, 15 on the grid average, something like that. Pretty poor reputation for driving standards, poor car preparation.
Sorry, driving standards. Do I recall that you sampled a race and someone took your wing mirror off on the straight, if I remember correctly?
Well, they took their own wing mirror off and then they threw it at me. Yeah.
They did know it was you?
They did after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So So that was one of those things that part of our reputation and part of our key to the strength of us is we police driving standards very strictly, and also we expect a high level of car preparation. The two have to go hand in hand because you can't expect high car preparation and poor driving standards. So we applied that to MG Cup. Now, a lot of people say, well, I don't really like those. They're too cheap. The guys that bring a trailer with a £5,000 race car and that can only do 2 races a year are equally important to us as the multi-millionaires that can do what they want. Because that is the heart of racing, and that's what we're about. Because all of us at some point, unless you've been very lucky, have been in that situation. And what we wanted is to have people to be able to come to a professional organisation, be properly treated, great race times, hospitality, and enjoy racing. We are now averaging 29 on that grid, with new drivers coming in all the time. So
exactly that. I've seen coming, and they are fantastic fun. It's the ZRs, the ZSs, a mixture of some MGBs and midgets sneaking in, and they are great fun to watch and great fun. One that maybe seemed a little bit out of character. Last year, the Equip Sports prototypes arrived.
That was an interesting one because when you take your own days, you can't always fill it with your own content, and that's when you start to lose atmosphere in the paddock. When you start getting guests coming in and all of a sudden you've got half of your own content, half of someone else's, it doesn't become your day anymore. So I was looking around and seeing how to fill spaces, and I see within the gaps, and what I saw, there was 2 series that were struggling really badly. So I spoke to both of the stakeholders that had them and did a deal and then took ownership of both of them and then merged them into one series. And now what we have is a really stable home for the prototypes. It's not bike sports and it's not radicals, it's a pure prototype series. So we have actual prototypes racing, and to me that is super exciting, where the regulations are open. As long as they stick within the regulations that we have, they can change from race to race, then they can develop them to wherever they want to take them. And we've got guys with autoclaves in their garden, making their own engines. It's so exciting.
It is. You've got people like Mike Genvy, who is probably the nearest thing in modern motorsport to a special, because he has developed that car over 25 years. It's nothing like the Gun 2-litre car that it started out as.
Absolutely, and the development is race on race there. So, and watching that car and watching him taking the first corner, the bottom corner at Cadwell Park at 134 mile an hour, flat, testament to him and his car building.
Yeah, and his driving, let's say that. And I'm just going to quickly just rattle through. You've got Equip Sports racing cars. We've got the Pre-63. You've got Equip 50s. You've got Equip 70s. What's on the horizon next, Rob?
So, this is exclusive because we were going to launch it at this show with the car. So in 2027, we will be running Equip Formula Libra V8 Plus, which will be for single-seaters, which are V8, V10, V12. So from 1986 to 2006, and that will include Formula 3000s, Formula Nippons, Formula Renaults, and A1GP cars, Euroboss cars. We've already got 17 confirmed entries for 2027, and I've already got a 5-date calendar already, so which will be 3 in the UK and 2 in Europe. So
almost a home for those single-seaters that are a little bit homeless at the moment.
Absolutely. Everyone's sort of focusing on the pre-86 Formula 1 cars. But what we're doing is we're doing a complete reboot on our single-seaters. So in 2027, aligned with that, there'll be a brand new 2.0 version of the Equip Formula F2 Atlantic series. And we've got just over 20 people committed to 27 on that as well. So we'll have the F2 and Formula Atlantic up to 1970, and then we'll have the 86 to 2006 big engine single-seaters. So
fantastic. That's going to be an exciting combination. Just like to say, ladies and gentlemen, that big thank you to Rob Cole and everyone at Equip Classic Racing. So thank you very much.
You're listening to Historic Racing News, where motorsport's history lives.
There are lots of ways to keep up with historic racing news. Our podcast comes out on the first Wednesday of every month. The 2-hour show includes interviews with drivers and other personalities from years gone by, plus news of historic events like the Goodwood Revival and the Silverstone Festival. And Jim Roller keeps us up to speed on happenings stateside and looks at the activities both on and off the track in the USA.
And you can also follow us on our YouTube channel, HRN Chronicles. It's our version of a time machine. We have archive features, exclusive interviews, and behind-the-scenes stories going way back into the history of our glorious sport. Plus, we keep an eye on the latest classic and competition car auction news. It's a place where motorsports history lives.
And don't forget our amazing Facebook page. With over 1 million views a month, it is one of the leading social media channels for the historic racing fan. We feature tales from years gone by, news from around the racing world, and we also take the opportunity to flesh out the stories we cover on our podcasts with photographs and yet more background information.
If you would like to find more editions of the Historic Racing News podcast, try searching Historic Racing News wherever you get your podcasts.
The YouTube channel is simply called HRN Chronicles.
And just search Facebook for the Historic Racing News page.
You're listening to Historic Racing News. Now back to your host, Paul Tarzi.
Race Retro saw 24,390 attendees through the doors at Stoneleigh with another best ever year. It's, as Paul said earlier on, more trade stands than ever before. Big names such as Stilo and Radical and HRX and Caterham, to name but a few, some very different people. And I was impressed by the breadth of the different things. In fact, Alex Brundle summed the show up perfectly. He said to us when he was leaving the show, the thing about Race Retro is that you can arrive with a license, a medical, any gear, no crash helmet, maybe you haven't even got a car, and you can find everything you need for the motorsport competitor by the time you leave.
He's right.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. And you'll have a schedule, and you probably could have paid your entry fees for any number of events with any of the great sanctioning bodies that were there.
The alphabetic spaghetti that Paul mentioned.
Okay, who's the meatball in that, Paul?
Let's not even go there.
No, let's not. I mean, for me, inside our particular hall where we spent so much time because we were on stage twice a day for 3 days, that right next to where the stage area was what they called Martini Magic, which set the tone. It was all about martini cars, and Jim, you're going to do a piece for HRN Chronicles, I know, which is going up.
Already up on Chronicles. You can find it. Of course, I called it The Italian Job, an homage to the great movie, but also appropriate given that it was Martini Magic. And so you can find that on our YouTube channel, HRN Chronicles.
Funny you should call it The Italian Job, because I always tease my son Nick that his favourite film ever is Back to the Future, and he can almost quote it word for word. For me, my favourite film ever is The Italian Job, and every
the original.
Or
the original, yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely the original.
Yeah, there isn't any other. But so yeah, and The Italian Job is very apt when it comes to that. Now, they also ran the Pride of the Paddock competition, and it was Damien Bradley's 1992 Pikes Peak Wide Arch Subaru Legacy that won the hearts and votes of visitors. That was voted for by the visitors. But two very different cars, which came second and third in that Pride of the Paddock competition. Rory Clegg's 1985 Vauxhall Nova came second, and the 1971 Datsun 510 Deluxe, a deluxe nevertheless, was awarded third place by the public vote. So people saw the irony perhaps in some of those things. You can find the pictures of all three of these cars on the Historic Racing News Facebook page. Outside the halls, rally fans were treated to an action-packed display, and Paul and Jim have both already waxed lyrical about that. There were everything from Group B cars to almost every other discipline and several points in between. And I was going to say the bespoke stage. It wasn't. It was a series of bespoke stages because they were different every day on Saturday and Sunday. And actually on Sunday afternoon, they put all the stages together and ran those as one big long stage, which was something close to 4 miles in length.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, and you didn't have to trudge off into the woods, and it was a beautiful day on Sunday.
Yeah, and we're waxing lyrical about Race Retro. Yeah, there are some. I'm not sure if negatives is the right word, but there are some things which are a little surprising. That Stoneleigh as a venue is interesting. It used to be the showground for the Royal Agricultural Show, so it was built for that, created for that. They've sort of brought it as an exhibition venue. Car parking is a bit of a long way away, let's be honest. And I talked to several people who said, they've got their week's worth of steps in simply coming in from the car park, and it's a bit limited as well. But by and large, I think it's a great venue. I actually like the quirkiness of it as much as anything else. I don't know what you two guys think.
The venue helps make the event.
Yeah,
I think that quirkiness, as I said earlier in part one of the show, each hall had its own vibe, and it's that quirkiness that causes that vibe to happen, I think. And when you take the different halls and the different places, and then you put certain things in them, it kind of fits. And yes, there's always going to be the car park issues, but given any event like that, I mean, can you imagine they're talking about having one at the NEC in London? Can you imagine parking for that? I mean, come on. I'd much rather get my steps in than have to deal with downtown traffic. So, yeah, I think it's a perfect venue. It has some history, which again, for people like us, that's cool. That's always a plus. So yeah, I can't imagine that they would do it anywhere else and be as successful with it as they are. Plus the fact that they've got how many years of track record that they've been building on. So you don't want to throw all that away.
Paul, you were running around the exhibition like a proverbial, and I'm
glad you didn't say proverbial what. I was slightly worried where that was going for a moment.
You were running around like a proverbial, and you found an event which is very intriguing to me. I knew nothing about it, and I must admit, it passed me by completely. But it's now firmly on my to-do list.
Again, we're here at Race Retro, and we're going to talk about the Lyddon Legend Festival, which is the 13th and 14th of June this year. And I'm very fortunate because this is well outside my area of expertise, but to have with me Hal Ridge. Hal, the Lyddon Festival, tell us all about it to start with.
Well, it's a celebration of rally and rallycross history. Lyddon Hill is the home of rallycross. That's where the sport was first created on the 4th of February 1967. Of course, like all disciplines in motorsport, the historic element is growing and has grown a lot in the last few years. A concept called the Rallycross Legends Show was created by a gentleman called Philippe Tollemer in France. And Philippe and a collection of French drivers have been doing a series of events as part of the French Rallycross Championship for some time. A few years ago, they started the Loyac Legend Festival at the Loyac in France, which is a huge rallycross venue in the northwest of France, near Rennes. And that event has spawned a collaboration with Lyddon Hill, run by Pat Duran, a multiple British Rallycross champion, to have these biannual events. So every other year it's at Lowick and every other year it's at Linden Hill.
I was going to say, for anyone coming from France, Linden Hill is almost perfectly situated, isn't it?
Yeah, 10 minutes from Dover, so it couldn't be better for people crossing the channel. And it's all about celebrating the rich history of rally and rallycross. It's both elements, and that is a big part of the event. The rallycross cars run demo races in groups of, say, Group B cars, which no one ever gets to see anymore. Group B cars racing each other. In 2024, that was a massive highlight. But also have rally cars on track, which are at staggered intervals, like they would be on a rally stage, on a tarmac-only layout. So you've got the rally element and the rallycross side, and there's no competition as such, but of course every time any driver puts a helmet on, they want to put on a good show and drive well, don't they? So it's a great spectacle.
That's right. You say about Linden Hill as the home of rallycross. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember it on World of Sport on a Saturday afternoon, and they show you rallycross from Linden Hill, and very, very spectacular. But the Group B cars, we're stood here right next to a 6R4 as we speak. They were spectacular, and the Will Gollops and the Martin Shankers. That was an amazing period of rallycross.
It was. I mean, it was created for the World of Sport. A TV producer called Robert Reed was at a hill climb, actually, and they were struggling with the weather. They'd realised that they needed to keep the cameras rolling to fill whatever TV slot they had, and they enjoyed watching the cars slide back down the hill to get to where they needed to be as much as watching the actual hill climb take place. That's how rallycross began. But yes, to answer your question, Group B cars are just phenomenal. They were a massive part of rallycross post the Group B banning from the World Rally Championship in 86, so from 87 onwards it became huge until they were then outlawed again at the top level of European rallycross at the end of 1992. And really for British fans, although the RS200, the Evo 2 RS200 with Martin Shanker and Mark Rennison and co was amazing. The 6R4, the bi-turbo Gollop 6R4 is right up there with iconic cars in the Silkeline livery, and that's got rallycross fever all over it, hasn't it?
It is. You're quite right. Those Group P cars were spectacular rally cars, but then they were developed further, if I remember correctly, and even more powerful just for rallycross. Yeah,
as I say, a bi-turbo car that Gollop developed down the line was really the peak Group B, I would say, at the end of '92. And who knows where that would have gone had they continued. But with the European Championship going to more Group A-based regulations for '93, the Group B cars continued in national championships, and certainly in British rallycross. Pat Duran was still driving an RS200 until the turn of the millennium. Lawrence Gibson won a British championship in 2008 in a 6R4, so they were still prevalent later, but of course that development trajectory stopped once the very top level. Like anything, once the top level moves on, then the development slows down elsewhere, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah, the money goes elsewhere. But you talk about those cars, and one of my abiding memories of the 6R4 is just how good it sounds.
Oh yeah, and Group B cars in general, they're absolutely brutal. I've been lucky enough to drive a few, and they're so immersive, and that we're at Race Retro here.
Sorry, hold on. You were been lucky enough to drive a few. I'm now having life envy. I've obviously made. So what have you driven?
A 6R4, a couple of RS200s. I think for Ultimate Group B cars, those are the ones. But just to operate them in the paddock, just to drive out of the awning is a challenge, and that's so different to modern cars where, they're so much technology in clutch feel and gear change that it's very, very different today.
I was going to say, what is it like to actually have the opportunity to take one of those around the Linden Hill track? It's once in a lifetime, and you've done it more than once.
Yeah, amazing, and because my background as a journalist and a broadcaster is often there for features and the like. The ultimate objective is to bring the car back in one piece, but at the same time, these cars need to be driven to a certain degree to get the most out of them. If you're very tentative in a four-wheel drive car on a loose surface, you're going to get a huge amount of understeer, and so you need to be have a degree of commitment to get it to do what you want it to do. So it's fine margins.
That's interesting. I was actually talking to someone recently who runs sports prototypes, and he says when they put someone in the car, it's trying to get them to understand that car will go round the corner at 80 mile an hour, it'll go round the corner at 140. It will not go round the corner at 110 because nothing's working properly yet.
Yeah, and while aerodynamics in our world is not so significant. Of course, it has an effect, but it's not like having a high downforce car. Certainly, to get differentials working and to get a forward drive system working, you need that degree of aggressiveness, you could say, to do that job.
To my eternal embarrassment, I've only actually been to Linden Hill once, and I was sent there for a race meeting by Motorsport News. So firstly, I drove in and suddenly realised that from where I was going to be stood, I could see the entire track, which I'd never experienced at a circuit before. It is a fantastic spectator venue.
It's the perfect amphitheatre. You can see everything from almost every vantage point. The paddock's an intrinsic part of the venue as well. It's not like you have to go outside of where you'd be spectating to see the cars in the paddock. You can watch from the paddock, from the edge of the paddock. It's perfect. With a hill, you get a great sense of speed, especially down the hill into Paddock Bend, one of the best corners, I would say, in rallycross anywhere in the world. Yeah, as a venue, it's fantastic, and the investment they've made in the last few years to bring it up to the expected standards of modern life has made a big difference. There's local food produced for the caterers. It's got a really nice homely feel that I feel like you go to a bigger venue and it's maybe a little bit sanitised sometimes, because that's how it needs to be with we're hosting big events. But it's lovely.
I think that feel of a meeting can be so important, isn't it? So someone coming along to the weekend for the first time, what are they going to see? What are they going to experience?
Ultimately, you're going to experience a whole spectrum of rally and rallycross cars from the early 70s, late 60s in some cases, right up until 2026 that we're in now. Amazing accessibility, so incredible cars, amazing accessibility. You can get up close and personal with everything. You can touch, feel, smell. It's a whole immersive atmosphere being part of these events. There's going to be 120 cars-ish, split between rally and rallycross cars. They're all hand-chosen based on their pedigree. And I think it is absolutely the only place in the world to see Group B rallycross races. And based on the last event in 2024, they're going to be spectacular. We had Francois Delacour driving an RS200, and they were racing hard. Okay, it's a demo. You're not going to see the sort of crazy moves that you would see in a YouTube clip of rallycross in the late 80s, but still, to see these cars driven in anger, it's all well and good seeing them on display or seeing them poodle around a demo, but to see them driven in anger is really unique, and for me, that's what's most special, and the wide variety of what's there.
And I assume you get the same. I commentate a lot of historic race meetings, but on circuit racing. And as I always say, if you are going in the paddock, ask about the car. People love talking about their car. You can hear some amazing stories from the people who've got the car now about that car.
And what I particularly enjoy about these events is them being non-competitive. There isn't the pressures that you have. I work in motorsport all the time, and I've competed. And when you're working, you're competing, your mindset's elsewhere. But these celebration events are just wonderful. People have the time to talk, and they're not off thinking about the next setup change or the next time they need to be in pre-grid or all these things. So it's a real opportunity to get up close and personal with these cars and personalities that you wouldn't get otherwise, I don't think.
Yeah, and as I said, and people like talking about their cars and the history of them, and some of them have got fantastic tales to. Now, you were telling me before we started that you've actually restored a rally car yourself.
Yeah, so we restored a rallycross supercar. It's the Ford Fiesta that Steve Mundy won the British Rallycross Championship with in 1996. An interesting year, 96, because there was a TV dispute with the British Championship, so there was actually two British champions that year, and Will Gollop won 2 rounds and was given a title, and then Steve did the whole season. But yeah, it's a rallycross supercar, YB Cosworth, 4-wheel drive, circa 500 horsepower, sequential gearbox, live Atlas rear axle as opposed to a differential and independent rear suspension, which most supercars have. It's been an 8-year process. Tried to be as true to its history as possible, while also having to modernise some things with supply of parts. And
I was going to ask that, and that's the thing that you always people say, I'm restoring this. It's not like you pop down Halfords and get the bits for it, is it? You've got to find out where those bits maybe came from, who might still have some,
and ultimately make most of them, or find suppliers to make most things. The other problem with restoring, or the other challenge with restoring a rallycross car, is there's no hard evidence as to what things were. You're relying on discussions with people that did it in period, photographs, drawings, that sort of thing. But because Rallycross never had its own homologation, the cars, without getting too anarchy about the rule set, you have only been able to race cars that were homologated, but they didn't run to that homologation. So if a car, for example, was homologated for the World Rally Championship with a certain type of upright, the Rallycross car doesn't need to follow that. It just needs to be of that shape that was homologated. The car needs to be of a Ford Fiesta, for example. So, yeah, it's been a challenge. It's amazing to have my own genuinely amazing to have my own supercar, and I actually started doing it with no real objective other than the fact that I wanted to own a piece of history and to have the pleasure of driving it. And the creation of the Legends events has actually come later, but that's the perfect place for it to be. So yeah, I can't wait to drive at Lyden Legends. I was in Lowick last year, which was incredible, and driving that car at Lyden will be pretty special.
So why did you pick that car? Is it one you remember from your youth?
No, I actually discovered motorsport later than that, but I'm from South Shropshire on the Welsh border, and the car was originally raced in period by a guy called Steve Mundy who lives not so far away. So I'm a South Shropshire lad at heart, and it had a good link there. And ultimately, I was just looking for an interesting project with good history, and there's not so many of those about. I was just talking to Mike Jordan from JRT this afternoon about the challenge with restoring these vehicles and finding their heritage, when ultimately they're just tools, aren't they? For all professional teams, they're just something to do a job. So to find something with real heritage that hasn't been chopped up to create something else it's not so common in Rallycross, to be honest. They do exist, but at an achievable level as well. I paid not very much for a very bad bare body shell and have done everything to restore it to how it is today. So.
That must be quite a task, because obviously the cars would evolve almost during a season, and how can you prove that it's got all of those bits on it, that all of those bits were on it actually at the same time, because it would have changed so much.
Well, you can't, unless you've got images or drawings or something to prove those credentials. You can't, but you can only do your best based on what was possible at the time, and what people's memories, as I said. The other element is that ultimately, from my point of view, I need this car to run without loads of hassle. So there's some things that maybe would have caused a lot of headaches in period that we've refined, and also technology's changed so much. It's almost impossible to make a part as it was in period if you don't have the same tooling or the same machining. And I don't know, CNCs, for example, have come on so far, so you can really refine things more than they would have been in period anyway. So it's a real, that's a balance. Ultimately, it's a real celebration of what the car was. I'm not for a moment pretending it's exactly as it was. Yeah. I've also put a lot of my heart and tears and
finances.
Let's not go into that. But and a lot of goodwill for some very good friends to do it, and it's probably quite a lot prettier than it was in its heyday. But it's not intended to go and rub panels with anyone in the first corner anymore. It's designed to go and enjoy driving it. So
you're not in a position to be rebuilding it after each heat, which possibly would have been in the day.
Yeah, and that's not what the demo events are about either. And I'm not going to claim that Rallycross cars were in period always the prettiest things, because they were a tool to do a job. Whereas panel gaps were definitely not high on the priority list back then, but for me they have been. So there's it's been a long process.
To round up and head back to the Lyden Legend Festival. Firstly, you're going to be toured. Are you going to be out on track, or are you going to be up in the comms box?
I won't be commentating. There's a great commentator that does Lyden Hills, so I'll do some presenting in the paddock and that sort of thing. I'm quite involved in the event from an organisational point of view, securing the cars and that sort of stuff. But we'll see. There's I'll try and drive. Unfortunately, I've got a great little team around me to run the car and stuff. So You can't enjoy any of it completely because your head's all over the place. But
So June the 13th and 14th, Lyden Hill. I was about to say I hope it's a nice sunny day, but I was just thinking that it might be more fun if it's just that little bit slippery in those cars.
We'll go for a nice sunny day. Lyden Hill on a sunny day is such a a fantastic place to be. It's got its own little microclimate just off the south coast there, but some of the best days I've ever had have been there in the summer. You have to come, because I can't explain to you how good it really is. And for anyone that has an even small interest in motor racing, it's right up there, because it just has a wonderful atmosphere of camaraderie as well. Whereas I feel like a lot of modern events have lost that a little bit. It's it's a real feel-good event.
Fantastic. Hal, thank you so much. And I need to check if I'm double booked or anything, but if I can get here, I will. Thank you so much for your time today.
You're listening to Historic Racing News. Now back to your host, Paul Tarzi.
Now we're talking about the National Agricultural Showground and the home of Race Retro. It's quite a long jump from there to Monte Carlo, but it's fairly large. But the world of motorsport is fairly large as well, and that in the next show we'll be looking at the Monaco Grand Prix Historique, and we'll be looking at that, previewing that in our next show, in the April show. But before that, Jim, we have Amelia Island, and one of the things coming up there is the Broad Arrow auction, plus all the peripheral satellite auctions that happen off-site.
The shift in Florida, Paul, is the third and final phase of the American winter auction season. Amelia Island used to be the sole focus, but when Haggerty purchased Amelia Island Concours from our dear friend Bill Warner, Haggerty supplanted RM Sotheby's with its own auction house, Broad Arrow. Now, in response, Sotheby's and a group of others started Moto Miami, a Concours and an auction. This year marked the third year of that venture at the Biltmore in Miami. Sotheby's enjoyed an 89% sell-through rate on their way to a total volume over $73.5 million. That's down about $1 million from a year ago, and perhaps the market's leveling out a little bit. It's been so robust so far this year in Europe and the United States. Now, the total estimate for the three Florida auctions, Sotheby's, which has just happened, Gooding Christie's, and Broad Arrow, is about $300 million. So with the preliminary numbers in from Miami, it's going to be interesting to see how things fare up north at Amelia Island. Now, one cool thing I will be watching closely, we have a rare opportunity for a direct oranges-to-oranges market comparison from Europe to the United States. Gooding Christie's will be offering a 1960 Ferrari 250 GT short wheelbase California Spider. It's one of its most coveted items to cross the block this year. Now, RM Sotheby's in Paris at Retromobile sold a nearly identical 250 GT short wheelbase California for $17 million. That's about 13 million pounds sterling. It's going to be very interesting to see how these two markets, U.S. and Europe, square up with these two cars.
And it's going to be interesting, isn't it, Jim, that with Amelia Island under Haggerty's ownership, that superficially nothing's changed. But if you know the event, it's changed a lot.
Changed drastically.
Bill Warner was all over Amelia Island in a good way. And one of the things with Bill was it always amazed me that he would introduce all of the Concours judges before the event, and he would have a line of 35, 40 people, and he would just walk along with his microphone and introduce every single one of them.
No script, no piece of paper.
Nope.
Just a microphone and a free hand to shake their hand.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
And that's Bill. That's, I think everybody. The last time that we were there, which I think 3 years ago, I think Amelia has lost Bill's presence. Simple as that. He's in happy retirement, doing all sorts of things that he wants to do, and building his collection of cars. But I think probably the next thing on my list would be to go to Mode Miami, which is the spin-off concours which you mentioned, which is down in Miami, and which was started by various people who were pissed off that Haggerty had taken over. So perhaps that's our go-to for next year, Jim.
For both events, Paul, Moto Miami and also the Amelia, as it's called now, a lot of people didn't think the two events could coexist. And after 3 years, it's pretty obvious that they probably can coexist. And that's not a bad thing. And so I wish them both luck. Yes, the Amelia has changed in its feel. It's probably a little more corporate now, which, that's depending on, the average fan may not even notice that. Moto Miami, I have not been to, so I only have what they would call in the court hearsay, from words from those people that I know, but they're people I trust, that event is growing. Now, on Sunday, right before our recording deadline here on Historic Racing News, on Sunday, the concourse itself, Moto Miami, suffered, unfortunately, a major rainstorm that flooded the field and left some nearly priceless cars mired in the mud and in a few cases partially submerged. We'll have a full report on that as well as the auction results in our April episode. And certainly the people in Moto Miami, the fact that they do their event a week before is not lost on me. And it's probably smart because that allows collector folks who would want to go to both events, they can make it in one trip. So they go to Miami, then they fly up to Jacksonville, do the event, then fly home. Because most of the people spending $17 million on a Ferrari are probably flying private anyway.
That puts it all in perspective, doesn't it? Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen, for the March edition of the Historic Racing News podcast. I'd like to thank everybody who gave up their time to talk to us at Race Retro, particularly our listeners, as we said, and thank you to all the people who came up and said nice things about what we do, which is always nice. Thank you to everyone who talked to us both on stage and off stage. Talked about everything from Le Mans to rallycross to rallying to saloon cars. I was going to say, I think we have to call them touring cars now. Don't forget our amazing competition. The details are also up on our Facebook page and at historicracingnews.com. And so you can find all the details there. The question, once again, is who won the first ever Monaco Grand Prix and what make of car was he driving?
Oh, I know. Oh, pick me. I know. I can't.
No, you can't.
And we can't enter. Am I right 100%
You
on
are. To quote a well-known world stage figure, you're right 1,000%.
Yep.
Thank you also, of course, to the dynamic duo, Paul Jerd, and the man who also produces the show, Jim Roller. My name is still Paul Tarsi, and as always, if you have been, thank you very much for listening.
The preceding was a copyrighted presentation of Historic Racing News in association with White Squirrel Studios. Don't miss our April episode when we will announce the winner of our Monaco Historique contest. We'll also have more great interviews and review some books with a distinctly American theme. That's all on Historic Racing News, available April 1st, wherever you get your podcasts.